Okay, hi guys. Design is everywhere. It's because we need a title, but it's as we just say. I started this this work with in the sport business just by case, because I broke my ankle skiing. And since I was a student, I did a master in technology with plastic injection. And during my stay in the hospital, it was very obvious. At that time, all the shoes were in leather. And it was very obvious for me that the shoes should be in plastic. And I did my first mock-ups myself. And I was like 22, 23 years old. I knocked some doors of the famous company around the world, and everybody says, "Oh, you're too young, you know nothing about ski boots and so on." And finally, I got a little frustrated, of course, and I put my mock-ups in the middle of, what is that? Larson? Somebody's calling me, maybe. And yeah, I put my mock-ups of these boots in the middle of mock-ups of buildings and other things I was doing at that time for living. And somebody came into this exhibition and said, "Oh, interesting, you did a boot which is completely white. All the boots are black or red or browny." And this guy was connected to an Italian fellow. His name was Caberlotto, and he owns a company called Caber. And he said, "Well, I would like to invite you to Italy to see if one of your ideas could be used to help us to make these boots." And I went to Italy. I wasn't speaking any Italian at that time. And we tried to make the boots. We tried to make the boots for like 6 months. Okay, much better. So, to make it short, the guy came to me and said, "Well, I'd like very much your ideas, but I need to have solutions." And it was very difficult for us to come with a breakthrough. All the boots at that time were in leather. And we did these boots in plastic the way I wanted. I had to compromise. I learned how to compromise. And that was my first success in products. So that's why I moved to Italy. And this company has roughly 120 workers, and they were making 120,000 pair per year normally. And after I worked, the year after, we had 1,600,000 pair. So it changed their life completely, and mine also. So what you will see, it's a company which is next door to this first ski boot company, because after you've been successful with somebody, with a product, everybody wants to jump on your boat and be successful also. And this was the industry of the motorbikes. So let's see if these things work. It doesn't. Yes, it works. Puoi aumentare il suono ancora? Di brutto? Adesso lo rivediamo. We will see this film again because it's a loop. just 1 second, and I would like to show you something. Is it working? Yes. So, as you see, the pilot, Fogarty, he felt first in the foot, the back, the arm, all the protuberance, all the reliefs are hurt, and the back, of course, here. And this was the first protection gear that I did. And of course, he saved his life. And before that, the year before, they had no protection, so he would be dead. And this guy won the race the day after, so it gave me a lot of credibility also. Let me stop this thing. How did you stop it? Ah, here. Yeah. Come si chiude? Ah, vado avanti. Ah, fai tu. So, this is the reason why, you know. I mean, the reason why, mostly, it gives me the credibility to design in a different way, in a world where normally protections were not something people would like to wear. Because at that time, I had, for example, Kenny Roberts, who was many times the champion of the world and so on. And he started putting stickers on the side of his knees and going down to the bike with pieces of Teflon who fly away when he was racing. So I make the protections on the side, on the sliders. All the racers now are going down and have a third wheel, the third wheel who helps them to make the curve faster. And I used the idea of the armadillo to, as you can see, this is already the third generation of back protectors. And here you have really the sense of what's happened in a company. This company was $1 million, roughly translated in dollar now, when I met them. Now it's 120 million. So it's a leader worldwide. And when we started, this company doesn't have money to make molds. So as a young designer, I made a mold of one of this element repeated as a chain. And we were not successful at all. The first year, everybody says, I'm looking ridiculous with the thing on the back and so on. Most of the appeal on a suit at that time was the combinations of the colors with the bike, you know. Trying to protect those guys was not really the thing. And due to the fact that the racers start to use these protections slowly and slowly during the race, it gives us a lot of credibility. And now the turnover of the protections in this company is more than 50%. And for example, we end up with a lot of products. I didn't put many images, but you can, if you are interested, you can see what Dainese is doing. We do helmets, we do airbags, we do tons of product. And this is not what I was hired for. I was hired for making combinations of colors, you know. So I like to explain that to the young generations of designers that it's important that you understand your customers, you understand the needs, but then you make sure that you can give something which could be, in this case, different than the usual products. Here we're using thermoplastic, which are cheap, but we also make, inside here you have aluminum, you have a low memory foam. This product is quite complex. And, but we have this sense, and this company have it very well, of how much is interesting to, you know, we could do that in carbon fiber, but this will have no sense and no reasons. This is much better to have a cheap and inexpensive material who absorb the impacts much better than these hard materials that could be dangerous, harmless. Nike. So this Dainese company, as I say, it's really a Me Too relationship with Lino Dainese, which is the owner of the company. It's a question of trust. So he saw the boots. Before that, I was designing for Alpinstar, which is a motorbike boots. And they introduced me to Dainese. So it's really around Venetian's factories, I met most of those companies. For example, I designed for all the ski boots companies. After I've been successful with Caber, I do Lange, Dolomite, Nordica, I do them all. Not in the meantime and on the same time, but during a long period of time. And in terms of turnover, of course, it's good, it's interesting. But at a certain point, you start to continue to repeat yourself and do the same thing. So I was tired and I moved to the States. I was designing a lot of sport shoes at that time, and I happened to work for Nike. And Phil Knight, which is the owner of Nike, came to me and said, Mark, what I need, it's an inexpensive product, a product which is easy to be understood all around the world, but a product which is also difficult to be copied, because when I start to put energy, design, investments and everything, I had to go to China to manufacture it. So 10 minutes later, you have a Foot Locker or whoever you would think about come to the factory, copy and make a similar product cheaper, and I lose all my benefit. So do you have an idea? And I explained that because it's a different approach than normal design inputs that you could think about. And I was designing machines for this product, this EVA, which is ethyl vinyl acetate. It's it's maybe me which is doing this, I don't know. It's an expanded rubber, which is most of the time used for the wheels of this trolley that you see on the car kits or things like this. And it's an interesting material, but it's a material who explode. So the mold is very small, and when the mold opened, the piece became a third bigger. So, which is also interesting because you can do in the mold under squares, who comes out anyway. So you can do shapes which are very complex. But nobody never had done shapes with and under control. Most of the time there were balls, spheres, circles, wheels, and things like this. And I went to the company who make the material, which I knew at that time because it was the same company of the ski boots. So I had a kind of credibility to ask these kind of questions. And these guys also introduced me to the company who made molds and the machines. And all together, it's like a team of 10 persons. We end up with the idea of doing sandals in a complex shape with a special machine, with a special material, and this has to be made in Italy, which would be nonsense for an inexpensive product. But we did it. We did a factory, brand new. I was partner of because at a certain point we said, let's put the money and start the thing, and we did it, 3 persons. So we made the molds and everything, and it was quite an adventure for me in my life. I never did this, and it was in Padova. And you can imagine myself going through the mock-ups, taking the plane, bringing this to the States and saying, we need to build a factory, we need to make the machines, and so on and so on. And I was lucky because my mock-up was in balsa, in wood, very light wood. And during the meeting, with those meetings in the States, they like to make them starting very early in the morning, like 6 or 7 o'clock, which is not a problem because I was flying in anyway. My jet lag problem was later at 3 o'clock, so This morning I was awake. Phil Knight took the sample before, you know, you say, everybody, this is sample interesting. Took the samples, and Ben, since it was looking like a soft product, it bent and the mock-up breaks, and he feels guilty. So the fact that he feels guilty, most of the time I think, and we said that also in the past together, that he say, okay, let's do it, because he feels really guilty having me flying over to the States and so on. So we start this adventure, and it was very difficult, because the expansion, it's a heat process. That's the first sample where, for example, we sent to the States had continue to expand. If you put it on a window under the sun, the 42, you know, European size became a 45, 46, 47. It was really a nightmare. But after a year, we find the clue, how to solve these expansions, how to stop everything. We have no glue, for example. These are sketches of the first, and this is the finished product. But this is, you have a mushroom. We had a machine who fixed these mushrooms directly on this. So there are many patterns and components. And the fact that this company has to spend a lot of money to make all these molds and to have an automated product make us very successful, difficult to copy. And instead of an inexpensive product, you know, we were targeting $3, $5, we end up with a product of roughly $10 with a lot of markup. They can communicate worldwide, and this was, it's still now we produce roughly 15 million pair a year. I sold my share to the company, to Nike, and so it's kind of interesting adventure, but it's always start to the credibility of somebody who gives you the key of the power for a certain point, you know, to a certain point of a risk money which somebody wants to take. This is another example. Here I have 3 images. No, this is not the right image. This is a bed which is done in with a process of gas-filled plastic injection. So it's an air molding, all right? Which is completely transparent to X-ray. Means that you have somebody which is lying here. If you want to take an X-ray, normally you have to move it to another bed. And here you put the X-ray machine underneath here, and that goes through. But it was, you know, at that time something interesting. This is a product which is already, I would say, 20 years old. But at that point, at that time, it gives, and this is the conventional product here on the surface. This is my product with the air, but here you have the frame with air, and here you have the frame with air. So this company was a nobody company on that field, became a successful company for this product. So innovation, you don't end up with a product like this at the moment for sure, but you know, it's also interesting to do things like this. This is something interesting. It's a very small company who came to us 3 years ago. And they wanted something very snobbish, very elegant. They are making products in wood, with machine, but very rich, very a kind of industrial artisan. And he wants to put on the side of this product something who could give him awareness. So we invent this chain process with this, which is irregular, and playing with layers, you end up with a structure. So we got some prices, but that was a failure. It's not a failure in terms of product because we were very successful, but this guy was too small for a project like this. That was a mistake. So you can see I still make these kind of mistakes, which when you are young, you have an excuse to take, because you are positive, and I tend to continue to be too much positive sometimes with some dead dogs. I mean, this company, if it's too small, they can't communicate this success because they get orders they were not able to deliver. So it's not good for me, it's not good for them. That was a mistake. But it's a nice image to show. I will continue to use this process, designing it in a different way, because it's a kind of too big project for a small company, I would say. This is an interesting company, Kaimi, and they are specialized in furniture, office furniture, and I did this product. Of course, we got the Compasadoro, but this distance, it's the longest distance normally in this field. Normally, these two pieces are distant for 1.20 meters, the longest one, because it's very heavy with all the books and so on. Here it's 1.60 meters, so it's called big, of course, because it could increase in height, and the surface could be very big. And this was very successful. We play with details and combinations of colors and volumes, and it gives the credibility to the company to start to work in the field of the sound. And this is what I do now with them. And this soundproof, and I think we need this thing here in this room. These soundproof panels are, normally the soundproof panels are either very decorative or completely ugly with just little holes. And it's an interesting company because they developed this material from the car industry. And you see all this, my design intervention, it's really nothing. But the fact of using this nothing sign make us, this ability to make many products. And it's not over design, it's really a kind of pixel that you play with it. And we do even things like this, which are more conventional for homes, soundproof. So somebody playing music, for example, or and this is a sketch of the project. This is the next year we'll come up with this. So it's a new generations of product in a company who was really bending metals, and that's it. And now this is 60% of their turnover in 3 years. So of course the business, I mean the office furniture is changing dramatically to the fact that we have devices which are smaller and smaller. We move from one room to another. We want to have quality in terms of light and sound, and this is what it's all about. So there is a lot of potential in working around this field. This is an interesting company because it's a mold maker which I met when I was making my ski boots. And he started his own company of chair, and he makes his mold, but he also injects. He injects plastic. Normally it's a bottom line product. Here what we do, it's wood together with plastic and transparent. This is not conventional because you don't see the screws, you don't see nothing. It's really a complex product. We got a lot of prices around. This is sold in Germany very well. And it gives the company a kind of reputation in the field of well-product design or well-designed product. So it disassembles like this. And it's really the fact of a kind of pleasure working with this company around these technical features. It's not a very well company, a very good company organized in terms of marketing. It's not Cartel. Maybe I should do that with Cartel and not with them. but it's a newcomer, and it's growing very much, 20% every year. This is also a newcomer. I designed for this company, for the branch, an ice cream machine, which I will show you later. And this is the problem of this company was to do this kind of chair, because they're very strong in making chairs for bars and restaurants. But what we wanted to have here, it's a memory with a new technology, which is completely, as you see normally, most of the chairs in aluminum have a bar here and a bar behind here. Here, this is all the structure, which is stable by itself, as you can see here. So you have the channel for the water and so on. And this piece, all the tubes are assembled directly on the structure. So if I go back, you can perceive much better, you know. It looks like a stupid thing, but it's not really. And it's a product which is, you know, takes time to be understood. It's the architects who appreciate the fact that there is something behind. It's very stable, and it's soil-proof. So in the seaside, it's no reaction compared to other products. So most of the time, tend to defeat and this is, for example, details for this stackable part and the water channel. The close-ups are nice. The chair by itself is nothing special. This is another product where it's a chair which is a monoblock. And this idea is to have a spring system playing with the comfort. So it means that the part where you sit is flexible. And of course it's transparent to water. So it's a product for indoor and outdoor together, without this feeling of an outdoor product when you put it indoor. A little bit like the chair that you're seated here. And this company is a famous company in Italy to make wood chair. And the plastic, if they do plastic, they want to have something which is different than the conventional plastic chairs. This is another chair company where, by contrary, this company is famous to make chair for everybody. So the companies, famous company, American or Germans, are manufacturing in this company without this brand, but they manufacture for them. And the idea here was to have a product which is very versatile, changing parts with the same bottom, with the same mold. You can have different type of product. This is my sketches when I present the product to them. And this is the finished product. I have some other, yeah. No, this is another one. So I don't have very many images, but the idea here is also changing the back part and the side part, the armrest and so on. You can have a perception of the product which is quite different. And the positioning also in the market is quite different. We can start from a product which is 20 to 30 euro to a product which is 100, 150 euro, covered in leather and so on. Now it's up. Questa roba è tremenda perché this hub design used to be Skitch is it's a company who was very fashionable, and I designed this for them, this product. So it's recycled material, it's wood recycled with polypropylene and transparent rest. Of course, it's stackable. You don't put many, like 4 or 5 pieces together, but because it starts to be very high at a certain point. But it's strongly designed, at the opposite of the bar chair that I was showing before. So there are still chairs, but with a total different approach. Also, these chairs are roughly it's 250 to 300 euro by chair. So it's another target. This is an interesting company which is making roto-molding, this slide company. And the idea is, since they manufacture everything themselves, also the polyurethane, it's to have the soft cover here, and a hole here of the roto-molding. So when you sit in here, it's soft. And it's quite comfortable. You could have also light in there. So it's a kind of thing for disco. You can do bars, we have different heights. Here the technical ID is quite invisible for the consumer. The consumer just feels no design product, but the softness is quite interesting. It's completely washable, you can put it outside, and it's an invisible intelligence. Again, this company is growing very quickly around the competitors. There are competitors together, these two companies. It's Serra Lunga. This company is more fashionable, and as you can see, the product is more designed. This is still roto-molding, but it's coated. And here I put natural material. And changing these pieces by different length, I do also a more comfortable piece or a very high piece and so on. It's just by changing one accessory. And the fact of using natural material with the plastic surface gives a certain appeal which is quite new in this field. For the same company, we invent a machine which is grinding the surface. As you see just before here, when you make the piece of roto-molding, you cover the surface. But let's assume that the surface underneath, it's transparent. If you grind by a revolution surface, if you grind the surface, then you find the plastic again underneath. So if you put a lamp into it, then you have a lamp with a strange sign, which is quite innovative. This is the best seller, not this one, but this one, in the range of this company. And it gives, again, the credibility for this company to be somebody in the lighting field. So I did a machine. I hired an engineer who did the machine, which is a rowing machine with a grinder, a kind of Black & Decker thing. And anyway. You can pursue a little better here. And we can change, since it's completely driven by electronics, we can speed off, change these cross lines and many things. This is another film.
Avevo un'idea in mente e una mazza da golf ha dimostrato che si poteva realizzare. Questa tecnologia per la prima volta entra a far parte.
Sound is really crummy, huh?
Abbiamo avvolto metri e metri di film di carbonio e di Kevlar attorno a un'infinità di forme, raggiungendo la sintesi perfetta tra tecnologia e bellezza. Poi questo filo avvolto è diventato una soluzione strutturale e estetica. Mitte è nata così. L'idea era così versatile che ha permesso la creazione di intere famiglie. Fino a disegnare gigantesche sculture luminose che sono state esposte in tutto il mondo. Qualche volta piccole idee possono diventare qualcosa di molto grande.
Well, I put this film here to introduce another relationship with a company, and let's see if it it's better for you to see some images. Yes, this is the oven where they cook these things. It's quite big. And some sketches of many products. Okay. And other products, and so on and so on. See if I have some other images. Yes. So with this company, I really took the advantage of searching and making adventures of new frontier. For example, in this lamp, you have a thread inside that you, here you can see it a little bit, which is the cable to bring the light on the top here. You don't see it. You have a second lamp here, which illuminates inside. Here is it. It's here. So, and we put a pattern on it and so on. It's in patterns and inventions, this complexity, it's not because I don't like to make things complicated, but it helps the company to protect themselves, and me too. You know. It's not easy to make the same thing. You know. Okay, let's go back and I tell you the story of this guy. Yes, I was living in Venice a part of my life, and this company was in Murano, and it was a very, very small company. And since when you live in Venice, you had to wake up very early in the morning, take the Vaporetto if you want to go to the car terminal or to the airport. And after a while, you meet always the same people in the Vaporetto, and you start to speak. See, since in Italy it's not difficult to speak with people. And I met this guy who says to me, well, I have this factory of lamps in Murano. Would you like to design lamps? I said, well, interesting, in glass. He said, I have a problem then. When I do a lamp in glass, I need my price, and my problem, it's like making one lamp as a sample every time. I have no advantage in making production. My cost is always the same. And could you, since he knew me because I was doing other things, you know, could you think about a material that we could use with this fashion aspect of the glass, but with an industrial way of manufacturing? And I was doing at that time golf clubs, as you see on the film. And it's a roaring process, the golf clubs, also the cans for fishing cans and so on. So I knocked doors of factories that were making fiberglass. I had like the ski boot story. How many knows, no, we are not interested, and so on. And finally I find one guy who said, well, let's try. And we tried. We tried 1 year, 2 years, it took 3 years to make this as the first object. Because as you see it maybe in the film, the first lamps were very complex. Because since it's possible with fiberglass and carbon fiber, my idea was really to make the foot, the very narrow, you know, cane, and then the big things with the strong light. You know, I'm a winner if I can do that. But it was too much. And with these guys of Murano, who were completely at the opposite, they killed me, you know, they were going, oh, that's too much, too much. And we end up by doing only one gesture, which is one cone, much more simple. And it was more simple to manufacture, and more simple for the La Signora Maria, we say in Italy, the normal consumer, to accept it. And because it was too much as a monster, you know, the first thing. And that was I had to make it and remake it, and then we end up with this. And I made a special thread. For example, the threads which are here around are made for me especially. It's not an industrial thread. It's a woven thread which is not perfect. It's a little bit, you know, like an artisan thing. So, and also, for example, the light is here, but this cone reflects the light within all the tube. That was another thing which I never thought about when I start. But we're working with the technicians, you know, I was thinking about with a tube, you know, things like this, which are very obvious. But to make this simplicity took us a lot of work. This is why I spent a little time to explain that. And we can compassador, and this gives us the credibility. And now this fiber, it's really something who, you know, everybody, when you think about lamps and fiber, think about me or this company. And would make no sense for me to make fiber lamp with Artemide, for example, which of course would like, but it's would be not serious. And same for Foscarini. They don't hire other designer doing fiber. So that's why we continue to use this way of manufacturing. And for example, this is a little different, but it's the same process in the cane, but not in the diffuser. And I use the flexibility of the cane to changing the weights to make a cheap cost of manufacturing. The first lamp I made where with the mold was curved. It was very nice, but very expensive, you know. And like you make a bicycle in carbon fiber, it's €3,000 one piece in the manufacturing. This is a product which, if you want to be successful, you have to be at the consumer at €1,000 around, a little cheaper if you can. So it means that industrially this must cost 120, 200, not more. So when I was finished, I had to restart everything. And this took me 3 years again. Because to make this curve right, and to make this curve, for example, normally a cane, it's very straight. You never could bend it this way. And to make this curve gentle, and the fact that, for example, when we have, it was raining, humidity was changing, the cane was going like this. And when the sun comes, the cane was going, like that. It was like a little bit like the sandals of Nike. But finally, we find our way. And now we produce a cane which is straight, of course, much cheaper. And this ability of curving, it's done by the weight which is inside. But we had to redo the resin, the fiber, everything. The coating, for example, is a special coating. So it's quite difficult. This is a paper. This is a lamp done with paper. This paper comes from Japan. And it's a gesture more than, but it's interesting because here you have an open channel underneath, because every sheet of paper stops as a C. And so at the end you have a structure with lamps who control the quality of the lamps on the table. And the rest, you have one lamp who gives the quality of the lamp into the lamp. So that's another way of doing lamps, which is quite interesting. And I didn't want to use fiber. I want to use another material. And paper was very nice. This is fiberglass. And as I explained, we invent this way of bringing the light. It was not something we did. The first idea was to put a tube in the middle, to bring the light on the top here. But I thought it was much smarter to have the thread which is invisible. More complex, of course, because this is heated in these waves at 120 to 130 centigrades, which is too much for a normal cable. So I found a military cable which is inside there, and anyway. So be aware of materials. It's very important. This is the type of approach. If you want to do innovative design, you must be aware of manufacturing process, cost, but also being curious in seeing exhibitions of other things, you know, fish canes or plastic thing. Or I was today doing lamps in concrete. You know, I had to know about concretes and lights and lamps and things. But also, you have to be able to do piece of art. I mean, this first piece, it's more something which is, you know, not something you do with a German company, very technical. Nothing against the Germans, but anyway. Another approach to design, and this is really an industrial design product. This is an ice cream fridge. As you all know, the ice cream normally is sold in two ways. Under ventilated volumes where the kids can see the ice cream, but to keep it cooled, you have to have an air which is very cold, and the ice cream is a little too hard. So it has to be re-oxygenated when you serve it. The best ice cream normally it's the one you don't see, because the temperature is a little warmer, and you don't have UVs against natural products and so on. So my idea was to combine the two things and to have a window in the top of it, so being able, the young people, to see what they want and just pointing at the color or the taste of the product they want. This means that this machine is at this height, a table height. It changed completely the way of designing a point of sales of ice creams. We were very successful. Now we have a factory, total factory, which is doing this. And this is an inexpensive product. This is one of my ambition was to do something. Since it was the first product I did in the ice cream field, I know nothing about ice cream. So I went knocking doors again, leaking ice creams around Italy, which is not difficult, and asking questions. And most of my colleagues were designing very nice objects, but very expensive. So I wanted to do something cheap. So to do something cheap, I cut the cost here. This is an empty room, which is underneath here, completely empty, due to the experience I had in the rotomolding. So I do this in rotomolding. And these molds are very cheap, very unique. We put a patent on it. And again, this is not something that you became famous in doing this, but working with a team of engineers, you find ideas like this, who then give you the ability to have this type of ideas, So it's a chain of good friends working together, not only me. That's an important factor for me if you want to change the rules of the product. This is a small company. Well, I will show you a few images. Is that the last one? Yes. Okay. Most of the company famous in doing spa and hydro massage have those jets very strongly designed. I did many of them also for most of the company around the world. But it's very visible what you do. Here, what we have done, it's a line, and you have another line in other models and so on. And here, the jets are not working. So you have the water, which is on the top here, at the level. But when the pumps are working, you have jets who come out from the light. And the light together with the color and so on, it's quite an impression. And most of the companies, famous companies from Telco to Yakutsi, are going down in terms of sales every year, losing 20 to 30%, 60% lost Albatros. And Albatros, who was, for example, one of the leaders in Italy, has been bought by this company, who was a very small company which I was working with. I like very much this company because they were working with fiberglass, which is the process of manufacturing the boats, the boat shells. So they were able to make sharp angles, and they make their own molds, they make their own manufacturing. So it was very difficult for me to start with them because, of course, when you ask them to make these things under square, it's not an easy thing. But at the end, we made it. We are successful, and we have an increase of 25 to 30% every year. So it means that if you find solutions, it gives you a new area to work. They start now to sell in America, in China, in Russia, other countries where, you know, they were selling in Italy, and that's it. This is a recent product. Yeah. Again, it's a very small company. I tend to try to work also not only with small company, but when a project is completely new, that's this billiard. I had this idea of making billiard transparent in glass, and I met this company in the Salone del Mobile. This guy was making baby foots in glass, horrible, badly designed. So I introduced myself and said, interesting, and so on. And I said, why don't we try to make a billiard? Well designed. I said, okay, you do it. So we did it. We start this project, and now it's on the market. We sell roughly now one a week. So it's cost like a car, a little car. It's an expensive product. It's going very quick. So we have already now collections of billiards of different size, the snooker, the pool, professional pool, pool for family pool. I'm designing now also, again, their football thing, the baby foot, well designed this time. I hope so. Will be shown by the end of the year. So it was difficult for me to get into this company and make, since it was a very small company, they were not able to make huge investment, they were not flexible too much, but we learned how to work together, and now I'm making 100% of their product. So I think it's the last picture. But you see, for example, a stupid hole like this, it's not a stupid hole, because this is the PU of the ski boots. This is also a ski boot material, it's polyurethane, which is flexible. And inside here, you have a nylon reinforcement. So it looks simple, but it's maybe not so simple. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know that it's difficult, the first questions. Maybe I can continue to explain a little bit better about, for example, this project.
Sì, dovrebbe. Prova.
Vai tu. Prego.
Ci sono delle domande? Sì. Devono superare quei 2 minuti di timidezza. Beh, racconto 2 cose, poi ti faccio una domanda io e poi loro fanno una domanda.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you a story. For example, I was talking about Lino Dainese, this guy, this owner of the Dainese company. I was designing these jackets, coat protections, and so on. And after a long day of work, a little bit like today, very hot, humid, he has a beautiful factory in the middle of the Colline, beautiful in north of Italy, close to Vicenza. And we were for a drink, a glass of white wine, typical, and we were discussing about what we could change in our process or what we could do. And he has the idea of saying, why don't we protect the back of these pilots? And well, he was not used to make investment in molds because he was cutting leather, stitching, It was really a clothing company, and that's it. So as I was saying, you know, we make a very simple mold. You know, an aluminum mold, one shape like this. I remember the cost was like 300 euro, roughly. So nothing. We inject this piece, we make this chain, and we give it to Kenny Roberts at that time. And Kenny said, okay, I wear it to try, to make the test, but not for the race. The race, I need to be flexible, and, you don't understand what a race is, and I said, okay. So we try several months, we improve it, make the padding better, and so on. And one day, the day before the race, he felt badly, a little bit like the film I show you, on his back, and he would be dead. And the day after, during the race, he wear that, win the race, and that time that give us the go. You know, everybody said, we want that, much better. And the same story happened to me when I wanted to use this to protect also the people who was making ski, you know, going downhill. You see these guys, they go like with nothing. Just at the starting block, they took away everything and they go, you know. And if they failed, it's a disaster. So we approach Tomba, and he liked it very much, the back protector. I make it special for him, white instead of black, you know. And we did a line of protection, 0 sales, no credibility at all. And he used it in all the races. He was under contract with us, so he had to use it. But he also was very convinced. And at that time, the races are 2 runs. You do 1 run in the morning, very early, and due to your position in the afternoon at 1 o'clock, roughly, you do the second run. So you make the first run, it was in Germany in the morning. And after the second run, he was at the starting block, and he said, I don't want to race. I lost my back protector. Somebody stole his back protector. So they stopped the race completely because he was supposed to race the first guy in the afternoon. So everybody, all the speakers, it was international, huh? All the speakers speak about and so on. And one guy with a motorbike passed by, you know. He was on a BMW with his back protector. And a journalist said, stop, could you give us your back protector for Tomba? So, okay, yes. So he put the back protector direct on the movie, on the film, you know, on a TV. He put it, say 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, go. He started the race, wins, and that was finished for us. We get, you know, all the companies and also all the other racers want to have the back protector, and so we had to give it to them free. They were not under contract with us, but it was a nice communication, and it's, you know, give us the go and the key for success. Another interesting story for me is the fact that, you know, very often the journalists say, what is your best product? What is the piece you like much better? And so, and I like to answer that it's not really a piece of design. It's the fact that I receive letters of people saying, thank you, you saved my life. Something I never thought about, you know. And I remember this guy, we received a letter, 2-page letters, with a picture of this guy in the hospital completely broken, and say, my son was wearing your protection, and he fell badly, and he cut his arms, his tendons, because something moved, the protection moved and cut his tendon. So we were very preoccupied, and me and Lino, we were reading this, we turned the page, but thank you, because he protect his back, he save his neck, his knees, and so on and so on and so on. So you should do, maybe you should fix this problem. So we went to the factory, we checked everything, we fixed it because it was true, we had a problem. We could make, the people who were stitching could make mis-stitch and make a mistake. So we solved this problem, and we sent to the fellow, to the son of this guy, another suit, brand new. And a few months later, we received a picture of the father, and with this son with a new dress, together, say, thank you for the suit, we like it very much. So this kind of experience, it's for me much better than my best piece of design. You know? Thank you. Well, I was always curious. I'm a bad engineer. That's in the way that I was lucky because I was very good in designing and drawing at school. But that was not good because it was easy for me to be, you know, the guy who designed very well. And so I didn't study very well. And I was lucky also because I went to the Art Deco in France, in Paris, where you had to be very good in designing. But you don't need to be an engineer to be successful in these kind of things. So I never forced myself to study really. And I made a mistake here. You know, I should have studied much before and pushed myself to go deeper in studies and so on. So I could invent more. I have many patents. You don't need to be an engineer to invent. But it became more and more complex because people are not sleeping. Every day there are new things. And as I was trying to explain you, I don't anymore do things myself. I put teams together. This is much better, and I tend to be le chef d'orchestre, you know, of the thing, the art director, to make sure I'm not missing the objective. And the objective could be cost, taste, fashion, colors, materials, this fantastic surface we're talking about. And you say that to an engineer, Gregor doesn't really understand what that means. But, you know, I prefer that. And having all the knowledge makes no sense for me. This is something which, for example, in America, they don't understand. The fact that I'm doing many fields, but I have a kind of fil rouge, which is connected to these old products, that I don't do 100% of all those products. I do one part, which is the point of the iceberg outside, making sure that I'm proud of that. The rest, of course, could be solved. Was the right answer? Well, you know, a lot of people have, and not only people, it's hard sometimes to contextualize rotomolding, which is a really rugged way of making plastic, in a high fashion house. Let's say a chalet with wood, expensive chalet, nice. You imagine a stupid rotomodeling piece inside there. It's not credible. So we play with surfaces. We play with this coating, so it gives richness for certain numbers of years was enough. But using wood, and not the stupid kind of wood that you could think about the first thing, but this kind of wood I'm talking about, which is, you know, which has this nice surface, which is very close to the chalet feeling. It gives the link to another range of product. It's really at the end what you see, which is the result, and not the process. In other cases, really the process which is the winner, but not in this case. The process tends to disappear. So there are a lot of contrast in these images that I show you today through culture, process, and of course this way of thinking that engineering is important to a certain way. If you're able to stop yourself, you know, for example, in the studio we used to be here in Milan, 27, using ProA with license, 2-3 ProA stations, which mean 2-3 persons paid every month to use Proe and Alias and things like this. That's finished for me. Now I tend to stick and make sure that I'm on the top of the iceberg, and it's enough. When I go that we go too deep in making the molds and the complexity, of course we had to know it, but make sure that somebody knows much better than we do, and we tend to be just being credible is enough, you know. Do you understand what I mean? And it's not an easy task. Now, sometimes you need to be a little bit like Karl Lagerfeld, making sure that people believes in you. And sometimes you need to think about screws and, you know, bending rage or, you know, how many Rockwells is the resistance of this thing. So you go from two opposite ways. But this is design, I think. Okay, good luck for your future.
You show us some beautiful sketches.
Yes.
I know that you recognize in design, not design, sketch, an important things to show your...
Sketch is very important for me, and for example, I did an aluminum suitcase which is manufactured in Italy, and the customer yesterday sent me a mail saying, can you send me some hand sketches, which is important for communication, because, you know, if you do that, everybody goes, oh, I design, so. So I did I made a mistake, because I go to my electronic, you know, Wacom, beautiful, which I draw in it, but it's not like designing on paper. So I did these sketches with a little too fake. So, of course, it's perfect, but it's too perfect. So then I went to the stupid paper, I took the stupid pen, and I made the sketcher. It was much, much better. Then I scan it, send to the guy. So this is the difference, you see. I think sketch gives you an ability to think directly, which this electronic things doesn't give you. No. It's fantastic because you have all the layers, and you can, but you can be not so good and became good. But with the paper, you had to be good. Well, no mistake. Thank you. Thank you.